A lot of talk, a lot of hype around Fernando Mendoza, the transfer from Cal. Did Coach Cignetti and Coach Shanahan steal another quarterback that can lead Indiana to the college football playoffs? Well, grab your snacks, hit the subscribe button, and let's fire up the chat, because tonight on the Hoosier Football Tailgate, we're going to take a closer look at Fernando Mendoza. Is he that dude that can take Indiana back to the promised land? Find out next, right here on the Hoosier Football Tailgate. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hoosier Football Tailgate right here on thehoosier.com, powered by the On3 Network. Thank you for joining me here on this beautiful Labor Day weekend, or should I say, could be rainy Labor Day weekend. We hope that the Indianapolis 500 by Saturday can get itself in and we have some decent weather, but right now it doesn't look like the weather gods are going to be too kind to Indiana as we fight some cold weather as well as some overcast, rainy skies. But anyway, I wanted to thank you for joining us here this evening. Want to thank a new affiliate of the Hoosier Football Tailgate. BetUS is one of the top betting apps in and around sports wagering and any other casino wagering, all that. If you go to their website and use the promo code Hoosier, you get 125% on your first deposit. So pretty good deal for them to lay out for us. That's BetUS, promo code Hoosier, and you'll get that taken care of right then, right there. But want to thank them for their generosity and for joining us here on the Hoosier Tailgate. Well, it's been a crazy week as we head into this weekend, and tonight, got on the Twitter after I was kind of laying out the show, and a lot of things kind of happened in a rather quick and crazy fashion in terms of some of the things that we're putting out by the press and stuff. And Indiana Athletics has done a tremendous job with this, supposedly a potential of bringing back, I guess, the Bison as a team mascot. And they even had a nice little one with Coach Cignetti tonight talking, if you get a chance, you want to look that up as well. And so they got that going on. The President's Commission on the college sports has been paused for the time being, according to Pete Nakos of On3. It's an interesting dynamic there because that was the one with Saban and those type of things. So that one has been put on hold for a while. And they did finally vote in the playoffs of being seeded for next season. And the first four ranked teams in the college football playoffs will get a week one bye. So, and it's irregardless of conference championship or anything like that. It's strictly based upon who are those top four teams in the standings and how does the playoff committee view them. So it's one of those things that I think will be good moving forward and things of that nature for college football and how that all looks going forward. So I'm glad they got that headed up and done. Also today, college football sports, our Fox College Football transfers with the biggest impact. Fernando Mendoza, the topic of our conversation tonight, is one of those transfers to keep an eye on in the 2025 season as being a possible impact player for the Indiana Hoosiers this year, as is Carson Beck for Georgia and John Matter from Mattatir for Oklahoma. He's a transfer from Washington State, but Mendoza, again, a lot of hype coming in and around that young man for this upcoming season. And we're going to talk a little bit more about him here in a second, but there's a lot of things that kind of hit the news wire as we, before we came on tonight. The other one was from Andy Staples on three, the most teams on the On Three's top 100 impact players list. Indiana has 5. The leader is Texas at 7. So Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, Clemson, Alabama, all with 5 impact players that were on the On Three top 100 impact players list. So a lot of things have kind of hit the wire here over the last 24, 36 hours. And then, of course, turning our attention to the NFL, we all understand that Jim Irsay had passed away yesterday evening for the Indianapolis Colts. A big blow to the community of down there in Indianapolis, as well as the Colts organization. And very sad to see his announcement on X yesterday evening of his passing at the age of 65. So my condolences to the Colts organization as well as the Irsay family. And so Indiana and the state of Indiana will have a little bit of a hole in their hearts here for the Memorial Day weekend, as that hit the news wires again late last night of Jim Irsay's passing. And it's just been a crazy sports week. You had that, then you had the Pacers come back from down 14 at one time and won the game in OT in New York. And it's just been crazy, but I digress a little bit. We want to get back to what we're here for. And that's to talk a little bit about Indiana football. More importantly, we're going to get to what I talked about earlier about, is Mendoza that dude? Is he the guy that can overwhelmingly bring Indiana and take them to the next step and bring them back into the college football playoffs? We're going to get a little few of that here tonight when we get to the video aspect of things. So again, any questions, comments, suggestions, by all means, put those into the chat. We'll happy to answer any questions that you have. Always put it up. And and Jason says Mendoza is an Andrew Luck type player. Well, that's pretty true in some respects. Very smart for that matter. And I know that Andrew Luck was very smart when he was out at Stanford. But any questions that you may have, by all means, put in the chat. We'll try to get them answered and everything as we get going here in the show. Right now, biggest thing is the month of June is coming up, and that's a big month, and it's more recruiting more than anything, as it has been here. Coaches are coming off the road here at the end of May, and they're getting ready to go into a big 3-week period where there are going to be a lot of camps going on, including Indiana's camps coming up there on Bloomington's campus with Coach Signetti. And these camps, and I think we talked a little bit about this last week, is the importance of it is from evaluating not only some 26 guys that may be on kind of teetering, one of those tweener big, power P4 kid versus a MAC kid, so forth, but also getting the 27 and 28s, the next year's juniors and sophomores, in to have them be evaluated, because as you know, in football right now, you see offers going out right and left right now, not only the 27 kids, but as for some, the 28 kids. And a lot of these guys, you've heard me talk about it before, are no doubters. You could put on the film and say, yeah, we want that guy, because it's just one of those things. They are the best thing that's on the field running around. Just did a recruiting video on the most recent commit for the Indiana Hoosiers, which led them to get to number 9 defensive lineman, Gabe Hill. He's one of those guys, 4-star guy, and he is a legit big time player that Indiana is going to be excited to have in their program, and get him signed come December. But June is a big month in the recruiting angle. Get about a 3-week period there. And then the coaches usually take a week or two to kind of rejuice the batteries before they get back in the office to start gearing up for the fall camp. And that heads at about the end of July. So, we're not too far off when you really think about it. You're 2 months off in some respects from getting ready for fall camp to start. And you think how quick that'll go here in the next 60 days as we head into this next year of games and such, and the schedule is out, fully printed out. You can get all that on the Indiana Athletic website. And the big 3 games coming up will be Illinois, Iowa, at Oregon, and they're at Iowa as well. So it's one of those things where they're going to have a grinder coming up soon with everything. And I think in some respects, it's going to be a great year for Indiana football, especially coming into Beantown, because they open the first 4 games of the season at home. And so I think it's vitally important for them to get off a great start. And that 4th game is against Illinois. And if they can get that accomplished, that's going to be huge. And one of the things about this schedule, as we said before, it's not a schedule that is overly kind, but no schedule in the Big Ten is. So irregardless of what happened last year, Indiana's schedule this year is, it's going to be a tough hole, but every year in the Big Ten is a tough hole. So, but anyway, with that, I just think it's going to be one of those things that with this recruiting month, it's going to be important to potentially in June here to add some of these key components, as well as get some offers put out to that next group of recruits, because it's vitally important to get a head start as much as you can with all that. One thing that came up today, also this week, and I saw an article, it's very interesting along this thing with the NCAA and what is being talked about with this House settlement and creating by the big P4 schools what they call the College Sports Commission. And they are going to be the governing body per se, the governing body that does everything from A to Z, from punishments to NIL to broadcasting rights and so forth. This College Football Commission, as Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, has just said the other day that the Power Conference will be in charge of enforcing the rules created by the House and the NCAA select settlement, and over the compensation of athlete compensation and other issues that arise. And right now, they are actually writing up, I guess, what they call waivers, that in order to be a part of the P4, you have to abide by their governing rules and bodies, and no state legislator or lawsuits can be filed if they want to remain a member of the P4. And one example they use is Tennessee, as they've already started in their legislator of talking about putting in certain things or components for the Tennessee schools. And it's already come out by the commission that it's going to be a requirement that you forego any lawsuits or anything like that as it pertains to the settlement, as it pertains to what will happen and occur with this College Sports Commission, excuse me. And I think it's going to be one of those things that it'll be interesting to watch here coming over the summer months, because we're getting down to that, wire in terms of getting it all done. Hey, Justin, how you doing, my man, tonight? Glad you're here with us, as well as all those joining us on all the different social media sites, whether it be YouTube, X, Facebook. We appreciate you all being here tonight. And again, hope everybody is will have a safe and very happy Memorial Day weekend if you're leaving and heading out of town or wherever you're going, to make sure you have safe travels as well. The other thing that I found interesting, and I don't know if anybody saw this, but it's pertaining to Ohio State. Last year, Ohio State and their fans were just absolutely pissed off because Fox Noon Kickoff, I think, broadcast 4 or 5 of their games at home, therefore taking potential night kickoffs and moving them to noon. And it really pissed off the Ohio State faithful, because they like to enjoy their day prior to having to go into the shoe at 7:00 at night for a kickoff to watch Ohio State games. And that's kind of a tradition there in Columbus. Well, Ohio State legislature has now introduced a bill that will ban noon kickoffs for games in the state of Ohio because of Ohio State losing night games. So that will be interesting to see because of the contract rights, because Fox Sports does have that claim that whoever they want to put on at noon, they're going to put those teams on at noon, and they're not going to be able to butt in against, whatever ESPN's deal is or however that looks across the board. So Ohio State fans were not pleased last year. So the legislators thinking that they're going to get involved, and that's all we need is another legislative body getting involved in all this. What needs to happen now, in my opinion, is for all parties to go to their neutral corners, allow the settlement to be fulfilled and given its stamp of approval, allow this College Sports Commission to draw up their bylaws, expectations and stuff, the NIL in terms of how that's going to all run and work, the broadcast rights, all this stuff. It's going to be an interesting aspect of all this coming in the next 60 days. And we're going to find out more and more as long as they're left alone to do what they need to do. And again, there's going to have to be tweaking along the way. Now, we found out, like I said today, the college football playoffs went to a pure seeding type of a tournament, getting away from last year's format that gave Arizona State and Boise State a first round bye. And now we're just going to go strictly rankings, irregardless if you're a champion or not in that regard. Now, conference champions will still get the automatic bid. So that's not going to cut anybody out that would happen to get an automatic bid, being that they're conference champions, but it does not guarantee them being one of the 4 ranked teams in the college football playoffs. So those are all good things. So I think everybody takes a deep breath, allows all the dust to settle, and let's figure out in the next 60 days what's all in front of us here, because like I said, it's going to go fast. And next thing you're going to know, it's time for college football to ramp back up and get rocking and rolling as we head into this next season and such. It's one of those things that I just can't believe that we're at the end of May. That's the craziest thing. We're already at the end of May here. And I was surprised that Memorial Day was the weekend, because I always thought it was the last weekend, but I guess the way the calendar shakes out this year, it is actually this weekend. And we still have a week after that to go. So it's going to be a interesting 500. It's going to be interesting Pacers Knicks series. It's going to be interesting to see if Fernando Mendoza can live up to the hype that has surrounded him since he's arrived on campus back in December, with all the accolades of being a quarterback that was highly sought after throughout the college spectrum, and the Indiana Hoosiers were able to get him signed on for this next season. And we're going to take a hard look at Mr. Mendoza and what he brings to the table. And I'll tell you what we're going to do here in a second. Justin, again, as much as I love Rourke, he was more of a pocket passer. Yeah. One thing you're going to see, and Signetti's even said this last year with Curtis's ACL problems, they moved him no more than 25% of all the classes, more so less than 25%. And that was because of the torn ACL. So he was a true drop back passer. With Mendoza arriving on scene, now you've got a young man that has more mobility. He moves well side to side. He does have vertical speed. And now the full gamut of what Indiana may want to do with their quarterback this season is more changing of the launch points. And I've said before how that is important. It helps the offensive lineman. It gives the defense something to be concerned about, because if you got a quarterback that's breaking contain, because they're running bootleg or because they're running sprint out, and you're always thinking that the end's going to be able to crash hard, and you let the quarterback outside of it, it turns into a big play. So that gives them another dimension that they really missed last year and everything. And then the addition of adding, at times, quarterback runs into the scheme that they didn't really have that much of last year. In rare situations did they run something like that. But that's the difference between what Curtis was able to do for him last year and what Mendoza may be able to do for them this year. And anytime that you have a quarterback, you have to figure out what they do well, what they don't do well, and what can you do to improve that, and then decide what best fits him in the system that you employ to get the most productivity out of him. You just can't say, well, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. Well, having quarterback runs as a 75% of your offense and the kid's a 5'1" doesn't necessarily bode well for you offensively, because that may not be that kid's best thing that he can do. So you really have to evaluate what a quarterback can or can't do within your system, and everyone's different. You cannot take what Curtis did last year and think that it automatically applies to Mendoza and vice versa. Now, are there going to be things that overlap? Absolutely. But it's one of those things you kind of go in with a blind slate and then find out as you go through your spring implementation and you go through spring practice and you get a feel for what he does well, what they don't do well, how do they respond in this and that. Then you start formulating your plan offensively prior to running into fall camp. Now, when you can have a quarterback that's there for 2 years, it's great because you can expand and take what they did and see how you can expand upon it, in that regard. So it's a good thing to have that opportunity. Johnson, Sig has a pretty good track record with quarterbacks. Well, you never know. You're correct. Sig has had a great run with quarterbacks, as has Shanahan in terms of what he's been able to run as a offensive coordinator. So I do like, the fact that Sig has coached the position. He understands, as well as the new quarterback coach, what you can put on a guy, what you can't. And you take a kid like Mendoza, who's very intelligent, very smart, football savvy, and you're going to be pretty happy with what you can do because of what he brings to the table. Just watching him and looking at him. And so one of the things I wanted to take a look at in some respects here is, what is important in terms of when you recruit a quarterback and, you're looking at some things about recruiting them. You have those that are seen and those that are kind of unseen, underneath the surface. And some of the underneath the surface is competitiveness. What does that show? How does he project? How does his body language project outwardly as a quarterback? Because you want guys that have that confidence, that confidence is projected because that's a feel, it's a vibe that the guys around him, the 10 other guys around him can feel and sense. And if you've got a guy back there that's uncertain of themselves or is not necessarily a positive guy, is a point of finger, then pull the thumb type of guy, then you're going to have problems. And you've got to figure out with that by, really diving into their background and looking at it deeply. Now with Mendoza, Signetti and Shanahan, they had a previous relationship before he left and went to Cal. And it all was when he was at JMU, and he thought he was better than what JMU was. And so he went out to Cal to try and see what happened out there. So they know a lot about him. And then of course, Alberto. So they know what they're getting in a family, what they're getting in the type of kids that they're bringing into the program and so forth. So one thing with all of this too is looking at some of the things here, what we talk about measurables, things that you can write down and see. Number one, you cannot recruit a kid's height in that regard. One of the things that makes him what he is, he's a 6'5", he's about 215, 220. Hopefully he added some more pounds because he was a little lanky. Biggest thing, redshirt sophomore, he's got 2 years left. That's another big positive because he can keep him in the program for 2 years. That's even better. He had a good year at Cal last year. We're going to look at his statistics there. The other thing is he comes from a highly respected football program down in Miami, Columbus, Christopher Columbus High School, a very, very good high school football program down there in Miami. And a lot of great players have come out of there over the years. So those are some of the things that you look at from the measurable type. Then you look at some of the things in statistical stuff. Played 11 games last year. There's a typo. It should be 24 season, not 23. Passing yards, had over 3,000, 6 interceptions. You know, one thing that is vitally important in this display of things is right here when you get to the completion percentage aspect of things, QBR, but more so the completion. In college football today, you better complete between 65 and 70% of your passes. Because if you cannot do that, way offenses are run nowadays, you're not getting a ton of that throws downfield, and you're getting more first and second down throws instead of just third and long type of throws. So you got to be an accurate quarterback. You have to have accuracy. In some respects, that may be the most important trait that you look for in a quarterback. How accurate is he? You know, where does he put the ball at? That was one of the things that made Curtis Rourke a phenomenal quarterback. He was a very accurate passer when he threw the football. Back shoulder throws, all the throws, he made them all. And I think Mendoza is going to be that type of kid too, because he was able to complete about 63% last year. Can you? And then you look at other aspects of it. Rushing. Now, he only had 112 yards. Now, understand this. He had 40 sacks. They gave up 40 sacks last year. And you're going to see some clips where I pulled out of him running. And you're going to find out how sneaky fast he is. And that's been some of the comments of some of these major publication guys that talked about how surprised they were with his speed. And so I do think that's a key component as well with all this is that he does have the ability to be he has a very mobile quarterback that moves very well in the pocket and out on the perimeter. So there's no question about that and everything with that from Cal last season. And he led him to the bowl game in 6th and 5 and all those type of things. One of the strengths on tapes or some of this, and we just talked about it a little bit about it, high football IQ. He does a great job of processing his reads in a quick fashion. You can tell he immerses himself in studying the game of football and being ready for what he needs to be ready for each and every week. So you can see that on tape and understand how, he approaches the game. We talked about his accurate intermediate passer type of with the 63% last year. He's got that 6'5" prototypical drop back quarterback frame, right? He's got all those things that when you look at him, you can say, yep, that's a good looking kid right there. Leadership. This is the one thing I picked up on film. You could tell that his teammates respond to him. And you can tell that his competitiveness he wears on his sleeve. And that is totally seen on tape. And you can see those kids rally around him. So his leadership ability as being that last guy that gives the calls, how cool it is for him to be in that situation. Because Curtis last year was more introverted. You didn't see much emotion out of Curtis, which is not bad. That's not a bad thing. It's just that he wasn't a overly rah-rah guy. Or if something went well or bad. You really couldn't tell. Was he excited that happened or was he not? He just kind of was a very, stoic type of personality, where Fernando has a little bit more outward excitement about him. And you can tell it, and you can see it and feel it, and you can tell the guys around him feel it. And the last thing that I think that based upon tape is he's still got a lot of upside. He's still a young quarterback when you think about it. He's still got 2 years left. He's getting better with his deep ball, his mechanics, his quick release, things that are going to make him better. It's just about repetition and getting opportunities to continue to build upon what he's already got as a quarterback right now with that. Let's see here. It's NFL potential. There's been a lot of talk about this. I've seen two different things about this. Some publications don't have him on a lot of different draft boards as of right now. There's a lot of upward trend, and I don't think there is a lot of him being on draft boards for one big reason. He's got theoretically 2 years left. But he does have those prototypical, pro style mechanics and size that we talked about. Yeah, PK, it's a possibility he could be a one and done guy. It depends on what happens to him this season as the year goes on. And that's kind of the third topic there about what will make that a possible proposition. He has to have a very strong year to elevate his stock, and especially for a kid that's got another year of eligibility. He's got to be a guy that stands out, and thus far he has stood out on film, and the scouts have recognized that. A lot of people have compared him to Brock Purdy, which I was like, okay, maybe. I'm not quite sure about that one. And I like Brock Purdy, don't get me wrong, because I think he's accurate. He gets out, he's mobile and all that. Maybe they think of it, he's a bigger version of him. I don't know, but there's some of that. And then there's some boards out there that project him as a 5-rounder, 7th rounder. I don't agree with that one. I've seen some articles of lately that project him as a potential 1st rounder, but he could be seen in that 1st or 2nd round. And it all depends, again, on what type of year he has. But we're already seeing all this hype built around this kid. He hasn't taken one snap for Indiana. You got 1 year of games where they were 6-5 at Cal, with him at the helm. And, there's a lot of anticipation, I guess I could say, with Fernando, and some of it is warranted because you see it and you're excited because of what Curtis did and what they do offensively and how that translates to Mendoza and things of that nature. But you always got to be careful with some of that, because you don't want to put too much expectation on somebody that hasn't taken a snap yet. But that's football, especially if you're going to play quarterback. It's a very hot kitchen. If you don't like that aspect of, being a quarterback at the big time level, you better choose another position, because you're going to be analyzed on every aspect of your game on and off the field by everyone that can put eyes on you. They're going to comment on how you walk around campus. They're going to comment on how you treat somebody when you introduce yourself to them, or they introduce yourself to you. Though these are all the things that these kids go through at a P4 school, that especially like in Indiana now, where winning last year has changed the trajectory of the program in a positive light. These guys now are becoming recognizable in a positive light, and everybody's going to be breaking them down for A, B, and C in that regard. If I get those in the rankings, they will be a major player in the college. Yeah, I mean, again, it's all to be determined. John says if they can crank up the offense, they can rename the Hoosier Invitational. They're again, as we get into the summer and stuff, we'll talk more about what their task is in front of them with this schedule. What is it they're going to have to do in order to replicate or duplicate what they did last year? And they got their first 4 home games at home. Then they go on the road for 2 weeks straight. And one of those road games is not only to Iowa, but to Oregon. We'll talk about how that may or may not impact their year next year. But again, with Fernando, there's no question that optimism is high. There's no question that he possesses a lot of intangibles, both seen and unseen, that as a former quarterback coach makes you very excited. When I look at the kid and watch the kid, I would love to coach him because he has a lot of things as a quarterback coach. You can, you're not going to have to worry about him. You're not going to worry about him taking an iPad home and sitting down and engrossing himself in cut-ups. You're not going to ask why is he not coming in the office every day just to say hello or check in or go over a few things prior to the next day's practice or after the morning practice coming in to watch film. These are all things as a former quarterback coach. Those are the traits that you want in a quarterback. You want him living, eating, breathing football. And I believe Fernando is one of those guys, just what I thought Curtis Work was one of those guys a year ago. And these guys are high level guys that they separate themselves pretty good quickly. Now, as it pertains to the Big Ten, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Illinois has got a really good quarterback in Altemeyer, who's going to come in here. He is a really good quarterback. He's another one of those guys that's a high level guy. So it's not like the Big Ten doesn't have big time quarterbacks. There's a lot of them. But some of them perform and some of them never get over the hump of just seeing what they, other than what they look like or how they perform, and they're not consistent in their game. But Fernando, I do believe, in my own opinion, is the type of kid that fits Indiana very well in terms of what Sig wants around the program and what he wants as a quarterback. I do think that. And I think because of that, his upward trend is really steep and it's going to get better and better because of what they've been able to do with him since the spring. So, but we're going to get a quick message here from BetUS. And when we come back, we're going to head to the video room and take a quick look at Mr. Mendoza right after this from BetUS.
Hoosier Football Tailgate is sponsored by BetUS. Use promo code TAILGATE and receive a 125% bonus added to your first deposit. BetUS is where the game starts.
All right, here we go. Back to the good stuff now. Enough of me talking about everything. And we're going to talk about Mr. Mendoza here. I'm going to get back. Let's see. Okay. And watch some of these clips here. I got about 11 clips of him from last year, and I'll try to set them up as much as I can for you in terms of what's happening here. But as you can see, this is a red zone play inside the 20. As you can see right now, that this guy, and this guy are a threat to come, including this linebacker as well. So you're already thinking right now, based upon the look that you're getting, that there's a lot of nice opportunities here on depending on what they call that he has to be ready for. Now, what they do call here, and let me see if I can get rid of these lines here. They're going to have a run play that they're going to call this way. And it's basically what Indiana ran last year, a lot of, where they're going to have a run play to the left and an RPO back up here to the top to this guy. And watch Fernando in terms of how he sets up on all this. And the decision he makes as it pertains to where he goes with the football. So there's the blitz. They're bringing a total of 6 guys. They're going to some type of cover 3-ish look. And this safety is kind of his key, this guy right there. Now, his eyes are taking a peek over here because he sees blitz, and he's going to get this guy right down the chute. And when this guy doesn't get himself over the top like he's supposed to, there's nobody back there. And so you'll watch him here as Fernando makes the correct read and has that quick release you have to have sometimes to get that ball in and out of your hands, gets a big play, and it's a touchdown for them last year. Now, here's the situation. It's 3rd and 14. In his mind, what am I getting here? What am I looking in the secondary? What are my options? If it's not there, I can either throw it away, and punting it is a good thing, or if I can find a scramble lane and step up into it, it looks as if he may have an opportunity to turn a pass play into a quarterback draw. Let's see what his decision is here. He doesn't have anybody. He steps up into the pocket. This is really good. He's carrying the ball where he needs to have it, right there in the middle of his breast between the 1 and the 5. 2 hands on it, so he doesn't have a chance of getting it stripped. Steps up, doesn't like what he sees, but he sees the avenue to go. So he takes a 3rd and 14 against Florida State and turns it into a first down. That's huge. That type of mentality right there, Indiana didn't have that with Rourke because he couldn't really get out and run as much. But you see the decision, you see the mechanics. You can see them work in unison as it pertains to his drop discipline and then his stepping up into the pocket because of the rush, scanning the field. There's nothing there, but I see a lane and taking it and getting a big-time first down for Cal last year. All right, 4th and 1. Okay, if you're going to go for things and you're going to put the ball in the quarterback's hand, you can have confidence that the kid is going to do what you're expecting of him. And here's one where they catch Miami in an all-out blitz. They're going to run a little bootleg action here, and he has to make a play because the contain guy does what he's supposed to do, and he makes sure he keeps Fernando inside. But Fernando has to make an adjustment off of him, because he doesn't want to get the ball broken up, and because Miami didn't have a back coverage out of the backfield on this one, a linebacker covering him. They were able to slip him through on a 4th and 1 and turn it into a big-time 40-some-yard touchdown in that game against Miami, which they end up losing by a point in a very controversial way. So, again, here's another situation. It's 1st and 10. They're up 35-18. And the one thing you don't want to do is give them an opportunity. That's for one thing. You want to make sure you're making good decisions with the football. And again, good first down play here. They're going to run a naked. Now, their defensive end does a great job of making sure the ball is not handed off, and he's going to come up the field and he's going to be the contain guy, and he does a great job. Now, what Fernando does here is he recognizes that he stands up. Now, you can see he almost gets stripped of the ball because he doesn't have both his hands on it. He kind of got caught in between there, but he knows he's not going to be able to get outside of it. So now he turns it into a big time run. So you get a pass play called regular naked boot, very simplistic play, first down play. Miami does a great job of defending it, and Fernando does a great job of finding a way out of a sack or a potential fumble and turning it into a big time play. And these are those type of plays that ultimately can hurt a defense at the end of the night. So that was a big time play there by him there. Now you can see his leadership. He's communicating. He's got his eyes on the sideline, all those type of things. Okay, this is another game against, I think this was against NC State or Stanford. Yeah. Again, it's 1st and 10. They're going to run a quick passing game type of setup. And he doesn't like the pitcher, so he's not going to throw it because he's got a guy standing right in his face. So rather than panic and do something stupid, he just pulls it down, finds a seam, and gets a big time run on 1st down. Now here's another, this is a great play. 1st and 14 or 15, they're going to run a kind of a semi-roll, semi-sprint out, and he's going to throw a big time strike in the quarter of the end zone for a touchdown. Boom. He's fitting it in between the corner, the corner and the safety there. That's a big time throw right there. And again, you can see by helping the offensive lineman in a launch point, and you can see his enthusiasm. He went and celebrated with these offensive linemen. If you saw that, he didn't go to the receiver. He did not go to the receiver. He went to an offensive lineman to celebrate that touchdown. I think that's very telling. He went to the guys that's protecting him and was thanking them for protecting him, that he was able to make that type of play. Again, here's another play against Wake. It's 3rd down and 10. 1st down, 1st quarter, nothing's there. Wake does a great job. They run a twist at the top, good stunt. This is a good thing to stop some of the quarterback stuff. And he fights a way through it. And there you can see he's able to make a move in space. He's got the ball tucked away like he's supposed to, high and tight. And he finds his way down inside the 15. I love this here. He's diving for the 1st down. That's, to me, is just playing balls out. No slide, just dive. Get that 1st down, get as many yardages as you can. Again, in this time against Stanford, this was a tough game for him. This is a game that they put him into a bowl game. So this is a big rivalry game. So here's another thing. They're going to run a pump and go. And you can see the receiver down here at the bottom gets tackled. So rather than do something and become overly panicked with, he scans back to the other way. There's nothing there. Don't force it. He takes off and runs. This is where he surprised me with his speed. Because right there, he turned it on. And you can see he's a long strider being 6'5", but man, oh man, that right there is so huge and so demoralizing to a defense. You think you got the play stop and he turns it into a 50-yard gain. And it's just one of those things that it kills the defense. Here's late in the game. It's 4th quarter. They're down by 11. And again, this is a game they got to have to go to a bowl game. And he was able to lead them back in this game. Bringing blitzed on the field. You can see the rotation. He notices it. Again, steps up. Now this time he's scanning. Look at, he's got his eyes downfield. He's, looking in the area that he was looking originally. Scan, step up. Oh, sorry. And there's Mr. Brady who's coming with him that he found on the scramble drill for a touchdown. That's huge. Again, down in the ball game. Okay. It's 4 minutes left. They're down 11. They come back and get it to 21-16. And now it's 2 minutes left and they're driving again. This time they're bringing a full out blitz. They're bringing 6. And so he's got to throw off somebody. I'm sorry, they're bringing 7. So he's got true zero coverage. There's no safeties in center field. He knows right now he's got nobody in center field, and he's got boom, 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 boom. He's got one-on-one. So he's got an option to stay down here or go to the top. He's made the decision to stay down here to his boy. Gets it. And then he beats the blitz on the throw, anticipating what Brady's doing. He's running a post, and he puts it in a position where Brady can get it. They had off defensive pass interference, and that was a play that gave them a 6-5 record and a bowl for the Cal Bears to get to. And without a doubt, in my opinion, he is that dude. Fernando Mendoza is that dude. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to come out, light the world on fire, but he has all the respect and responsibilities of a quarterback that can come in and take off where they left off as a leader, as a guy that can play the position, and a guy that makes plays and makes good decisions. And that's what you want in a quarterback. And I'm excited to see how Coach Cignetti and Coach Shanahan orchestrate the offense around what he does well and how they input it into the scheme that they've got in place that they ran with Curtis last year, but being able to add the dimensions of moving the pocket with Fernando, especially in the red zone. And you saw that with Cal. They moved it in the red zone because of their problems with their protection. They gave up 40 sacks last year, and that was just 11 plays, but those are the 11 plays that I looked at and said, yeah, this guy is legit. He's a guy that is a dude or a dog, as some will say. And I do think he's a guy that can do a lot of things for Indiana with what they do in their offense. And I'm excited to see what all happens with that. Is the hype and all the accolades, legit, I guess you could say, or is he worthy of all that? I say so. I think what he did at Cal last year should have beat Miami when they were the 8th ranked team in the country. That was a tough loss, controversial play. And some other things. They were a darn good football team, and lost some tight ball games. And, but they were able on that last game against their, arch rival, found a way to win it and got themselves to a bowl game and capped a really good season for Cal because they hadn't been to a bowl game for a while, and it was a winning season. So all those things are pointing to opportunities that I do think that Indiana's got himself a good one. He can be a 2-year guy. That'd be great. He has a great year and lights it up. Probably a 1-year guy. Hate to say that, but he probably is. But, yeah, John, he reminds you of Roger Staubach. Well, Roger Staubach was my favorite quarterback when I was growing up. And I can see where some of those characteristics show through. Roger Staubach, being a Naval Academy graduate, had to be smart and did a lot of those things. So that's a pretty good call on your part, that there are some elements that do remind you, us old timers, I guess we could say, John, of Roger Staubach. So, but he is going to be I think an exciting player to watch, especially with the wide receivers he's got around him. They got Brady now. You think about EJ Williams, Jesus, gets 6'6" and can jump out of a gym anywhere in the country. You got Surratt, who's a great player. You got Omar Cooper, who I think is only going to get better. I do think that there is offensively for them it's very exciting on paper who they've got. It's a very exciting on paper who they have defensively. So, optimism should be high and expectations should be high because they have a very talented team, not only coming back, but talented players coming in to help bolster that roster and everything. So I appreciate you guys joining me here this evening on the Hoosier Football Tailgate. Remember to drive safe this Memorial Day weekend. And I again ask you to subscribe for the YouTube channel there on thehoosier.com. Don't forget to get that subscription that they're running for 50% or $1 for the first month and 50% off for the year. Not only do you get the Hoosier.com coverage, but you also get everything in the forums and also on 3. And so those are all some of the perks that you get with all that, including all the recruiting updates, as well as any new recruiting breakdowns along the way. And get over and get that done today. But for now, I appreciate y'all. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Be safe, and we'll catch you next week right here on the Hoosier Football Tailgate. Good night, everybody.
Hello, Hoosier Nation. Go to thehoosier.com and take advantage of the 50% off for the first month, then 50% off on the first year of your subscription. You will get wall-to-wall coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers from Alec Lasley, Zach Browning, and the Coach Shannon Griffith on the Hoosier Football Tailgate, all on the Hoosier. Come